Arizona Cards Cast. Guess what day it is? It's Friday. DJ Khaled. I might as well be hyped up by DJ Khaled. Yes, ladies and gents, it is Friday, 10/21/2022. Guess what we're talking about today? We are talking about a Cards W, a dub. Yep, we're talking about a Cardinals W. 42-34 over the New Orleans Saints. Probably saved Cliff Kingsbury's job. Probably saved their season for now. Obviously, the Cardinals are still in a difficult spot. They might get help from the AFC West this weekend, and hopefully they do. And then maybe it's a whole new ball game where we're going to ignore the fact that they're 0-2 in the division so far this year. But let's get to it. Let's get to the 3 keys to victory. Number 1, 10 catches for 103 yards, 14 targets. Saw a hype video that just got us all fired up at the beginning of the day. Yes, DeAndre Hopkins is back. And DeAndre had himself a ball game like yesterday. He just changes the dynamic of this offense, defense. The players, Chris Harris Jr. is the third, is trying to cover him, not successfully. Not having Marshawn Lattimore did matter, of course, but still, DeAndre Hopkins, he makes an impact. There's not too many great corners in the division outside of Jalen Ramsey, too, which makes me think that, got 3 divisional games coming up after the Vikings next week, which I actually think is a very winnable football game, and we're going to get into that in a minute. But let's recap the game last night a little bit more. Number 2, how about a defensive scoring? Now, I have a bone to pick with the defense. When you give up 494 yards to an Andy Dalton-led team, that is not something to hang your hat on. In fact, that's a little bit embarrassing. And a lot of it was cheap yards at the end of the game when the Cardinals had the game in hand. But also a lot of it, they still gave up 256 yards in the first half when the game was not out of hand. And really the issue is, and this is something that maybe going again Brian Burns, but the only issue is if you're going to go get a pass rusher at the trade deadline, you're going to have to give up a lot of trade assets. Do you want to do it? Do you think this team is good enough to go deep, to make a deep run? Maybe. The NFC is wide open, and the one team that is at the top right now, you almost beat without DeAndre Hopkins. I think this Minnesota game next week is maybe a little bit of a litmus test for the Cardinals to see where they're at. But the defensive scoring, the 2 defensive scores, I know, thank you, Mickey Callaway, on the first one, went right through his hands into the hands of Marco Wilson. I don't know if you remember the snapshot of him doing like the Superman leap with Andy Dalton just sitting there with a frowny face. Has Marco Wilson's like flying to the end zone. One of the better snapshots I've seen in all of football all year. But in the second one, Isaiah Simmons, man, the guy is balling. That's why I said, have Isaiah Simmons in the game. He actually is an impact player. I know sometimes that he over-pursues in the running game. Sometimes he gets duped in man-to-man coverage, but I will say this: the guy is just a baller, and he is like you can remember, of course, that pick six, the second pick six was really the play that kind of put the game to bed, put the Cards in a comfortable spot where the Saints never really threatened in the second half. I guess you could say they were down by 8 with 45 seconds left and had an onside kick, but really overall the game was never really in doubt after the Isaiah Simmons defensive score. And as I said, number 3, guess what the Cardinals actually did for the first time all year, really? Played from ahead. You saw the stat yesterday. It was crazy. In the first 6 games, the Cardinals had, and they were all against the Carolina Panthers, by the way, and week 4, 13 plays from scrimmage with the lead. 13 total in 6 games. It's not the signs of a good football team. Well, they had the entire second half playing with the lead last night. They need to continue to do that. I was happy to see that the Cardinals did not get off to a slow start. I know they did have, they're down 14-6, but offensively they really did not get off to a slow start. They scored on their first 3 drives. The offense looked a lot more insane. And yeah, it's and also I forgot to say hashtag reverse the curse. Reverse the curse. So what's next? Well, let's kick back and actually watch Cardinal fans football this Sunday, especially the late window. We're going to be watching the Chiefs 49ers and the Seahawks Chargers. Now, on my column, I picked both the Seahawks and the Chiefs to lose. I don't know if the Seahawks get rolled, but I think the Chargers do cover. And I do like the Chiefs over the 49ers. As I said, I will say tomorrow in my best bets. Not as much, just a little bit of a spoiler. I was going to have the Chiefs in my best bets, but with the addition of Christian McCaffrey and then Trent Williams, Jimmy Ward, and Nick Bosa all returning this week, not as much because the Niners are getting some of their top guys back. Not as much, but I still think Mahomes finds a way. So if that happens, the Niners are 2-0 in the division. The Hawks are 1-1 in the division. The Cards are 0-2. So the Cards are still in last place. But they'll be tied with two teams at 3-4, and then they'll be only a half game behind the Rams, who are 3-3 and definitely look like a flawed football team. So every team in this division, as I say, maybe the Niners are the least flawed team, but they still got Jimmy Garoppolo. I know he's so handsome, but handsome doesn't win football games. Maybe handsome gives you good leadership skills. I don't know, but it doesn't win you football games. Also, a little bit of a sidebar here to talk about last night's game, which I haven't got to. There, you look at the national talk shows. Colin Cowherd, First Things First Take, Undisputed. They were all talking about. They weren't even really talking about the game. They were talking about because national media. It's all about conflict and what was the conflicting part of the game. What brings conflict and clicks. It's talking about the Cliff Kingsbury Kyler Murray argument when Kyler Murray said, "Calm the F down," after the Cardinals wasted their third time out of the first half. All on two of them were on clock management, not getting the play in before the end of the play clock. You know what I'll say about that, and it actually was not. It's not hyperbole to say that was kind of the turning point of the game. I feel like almost something like that when you see the fire from your quarterback like that, it really galvanized the team. Because a lot of people, what's the issue with Kyler Murray that everybody says? He shows no emotion. His body language is bad. He mopes around all the time, and to see him getting, emotionally fired up, and just seeing how engaged he was, him talking with DeAndre Hopkins early in the game. I don't know if you remember on a 3rd and goal when he threw that fade pass to Rondale Moore. I think, and this is just my speculation on the play. I think they were supposed to do something similar on the other side of the field. DeAndre Hopkins. There was a mix-up on the play call. DeAndre Hopkins. You see him. They showed the replay. Hopkins was raising his hands up like this, like, what am I supposed to do on this play? That'll get shored up over the next 10 days. Robbie Anderson really only had one target in the game. I mean, you couldn't expect much from a guy who just got signed 3 days ago, to know really the playbook much. Robbie Anderson will be in tune and ready for the next game. This offense, they scored 42 points, and it probably was their best offensive performance of the year, but there are still some to be had, not finishing drives early in the game, a couple of 3-and-outs to start the second half. Kyler Murray still taking bad sacks. He took a couple of bad sacks. I really think the offensive line did a great job against a good defensive front. Cam Jordan made a couple plays, but had a relatively quiet game. So the deal is, got a game in Minnesota. I know they're 5-1. Believe it or not, I bet you the spread in that game is going to be like Minnesota -4, Minnesota -3.5. It's going to prove. It's like Vegas is going to show you that Minnesota is slightly better than the Cardinals, but the line is going to be lower than you think. I don't think the Vikings will be in teaser range. I don't think that line gets over 4.5. I'll say anywhere from 3.5 to 4.5. And my early prognosis is maybe take the Cardinals, maybe take the points. Kirk Cousins has been finding a way to win close games, but maybe the Cardinals. That's going to be the big moment of the season. I mean, kind of these next 4 games is really it. You think about it. They go 1-3 in these games, next 4. They're 4-7. They're certainly in last place. The season's over. They go 3-1 in these next 4 games. And let's even say they lose to Minnesota, then win the 3 division games. They're 6-5, and they're in a crowded NFC. I really don't see outside of the Eagles any separation right now from anyone. And I don't know if that's going to happen anytime soon. We'll see. I still think Minnesota's a little fraudulent. We're going to find out next week. But anyways, please subscribe to my channel. Have a great weekend. We're not going to be talking about the Cardinals recap on Monday. We're going to be getting ready for next week's game. It's the mini bye. And this is Drew saying bye.